Right, we're off. Hello again. It is still Wednesday, 23rd of December, but this should be coming out on Boxing Day, but I'm trying to preload for the Christmas weekend, just so that I've got a bit of time with the family, rather than... I love you people, you are fantastic, but I do need to spend some time with my family for a few days at least. Otherwise my wife will be very pissed off. So, just done a Whisky, and I've got another one, fortunately, and I've got a big bottle with not a lot in it. It was a donation from a mystery benefactor. I know who it is because he actually gave it to me in person, but he requested that I didn't say who it was. So you know who you are. Thank you very much. You might have said you're fine with me telling people, but I'm not risking it just in case. And this is, like I say, another Swiss whiskey, and it's called Säntis. So it's another, as with the Langton yesterday, it's a brewery that got into distilling. And it's a brewery called the Locker Appenzell, or Brewery Locker, or something like that. So Appenzell is here. It's the Appenzell district. It's basically east of Zurich, not too far away from the Liechtenstein border, Luxembourg border. One of those. It begins with an L. And the distillery was started in 1886, and it's still owned by the family themselves. I think they're on the fifth generation now, and it was one of these breweries that was really pushing to get into distilling. So, as mentioned in the Langton review, Switzerland didn't actually, well, they abolished a law that was preventing breweries distilling anything made from grains or potatoes or anything like that, which was abolished in 1999. So from that point onwards, you could then make whiskey. Switzerland Switzerland used to be, it was fruit liqueurs and brandies and that sort of thing, because you could distill from that, but you couldn't make whiskey or any spirits or vodka or anything like that. 1999 comes around, I think it was 1st of July, by my recollection. Law is abolished, boom, they're going for it. And Säntis, I think it's Säntis rather than Säntis, or Säntis even, it might be Säntis, because I've seen it spelled Saentis, so it may be Säntis, but I'm going to go with Säntis because I'm English and we don't bother with pronunciation properly. Was one of the first ones to actually release a whiskey. So as soon as it could. Now, they spell it without the E. They want to not emulate Scotch, but they are basically paying, not homage to it, respects to Scotch. So it's spelled without the E, and likewise with Scotch, you've got to mature it for 3 years before you can call it whiskey. So it was 1999, 2002, get it out there. And this brewery is actually not too far away. I mean, Switzerland's known for being mountainous anyway. And they've basically used very kind of hardy barley that would otherwise be used for beer from quite high up in the mountains. So it's quite a harsher climate. You've got winds, you've got temperature changes. So the barley there is much more sturdy, hard wearing. But as you would expect, very, very clean, very clear crystal water as well. So it's very, very pure indeed. What they also do is they then mature it in casks that had previously held beer. Now, what they would do with the casks was they'd actually line them on the inside with pitch, pitch, tar, that sort of thing, so that the beer wouldn't leak out through the casks. But it would crack, it would dry, it would crack, and beer would seep through into the staves. Now, what they would then do is to mature the whiskey is they would scrape that layer of pitch off and then mature their whiskey, but there is still a beery element to it, apparently. So it possibly may well have an influence on this. Now, there are a number of versions, there are a number of editions of Säntis. This particular one is the edition, oh Jesus, I'm going to say that, Dreifaligkeit? What? Dreifaligkeit? Something like that. But there's some different versions. Jim Murray is a big fan of Säntis. I think it was 2010 he named Säntis, one of the Säntis, European Single Malt of the Year. Now, my assumption is that European Single Malt of the Year didn't include Scotch as a separate. It didn't include Scotch, had Scotch as separate divisions, even though Scotch is in Europe. But that would be my guess. It was kind of a other, but not American or the rest of the world. We'll just do European without Scotland and even Ireland maybe. So this is cask strength. So it is 52%. It's peated, and I think they do unpeated versions as well, and then matured in these, and it says old oak beer casks. God, I can't even get that thing open. So Jim Murray's a big fan of this. I did see, I think it was an article by Dominic Roscoe, who's a quite highly regarded whiskey writer, who had put down Murray's comments for the, I think it's 4 or 5 versions that they do, and he bloody raved about this one in particular. Murray did. So now, whatever your feelings of Murray, it's always nice to see somebody else's opinion, whether you agree with it or not. So I'm very, very intrigued to see what this is like. Good Lord. I've just seen the colour of it and it looks like beer. Weirdly, it doesn't look as dark in the bottle as it does in the glass. Look at the colour of that. That's ridiculous. That's almost ruby red. That really does look like an ale. If you put a head on that, that would look like I've got a little shot of beer in there. That really is a beery colour. Now, age-wise, again, no age statement, but I think it's about 8-year-old. I think. I'm not too sure. Oof, wow. Oh, it smells of sausage, and that's a good thing. It smells of a really smoky barbecue sausage. Now, I live near York, and in York there's a bar called Pivo, which is when I was working at the whisky shop, had just opened, and it had an amazing beer selection. It was one of those bars that was about the size of this room, including the bar. Absolutely tiny, little upstairs area, but the beer selection was fantastic, and they had a particular German beer whose name I cannot remember at all, and it blew me away, and it stuck with me for ages because he poured it out of the bottle. I took it, I sniffed it, and I was like, Jesus, that's a barbecue, and it's a barbecued sausage, and it tasted of it as well. I'd never had a beer that was so smoky, and that isn't quite as powerful, but by Christ, it's not that far off. The smokiness on that, oh God, do you know what it really reminds me of? Oh, I'm going to have to keep the rest of the bottle and just sniff it. Right, this is only going to apply if you've ever been to Walt Disney World. As you're probably aware if you've watched a number of my videos, I'm a massive Disney geek, particularly if you follow me on Twitter. I'm a massive Disney geek, particularly Disney parks, particularly Disney World in Florida. I tend to go every year. I bloody love the stuff. Fortunately, my kids love it as well. Now, if you've been to Walt Disney World, hopefully you've been to Epcot. And even if you haven't been to Walt Disney World, you probably have seen a picture of the icon of Epcot in particular. So icons of the parks are Cinderella's castle at the Magic Kingdom. Likewise, it's, oh God, was it Belle's castle at Disneyland Paris, and Sleeping Beauty's castle at Disneyland. So the big castle. Epcot has its own icon, which is known as the golf ball. It's a ride called Spaceship Earth. If you've seen a picture of a Spaceship Earth or the golf ball, it looks like a golf ball. It's a massive sphere, and believe it or not, if you've never been, there is a ride inside the sphere that's called Spaceship Earth, and it's a ride about humanity's evolution of communication. It's about communication, and it starts off in the Stone Age about how we used to communicate via pictures on walls, and then eventually evolve into inventing paper, inventing writing, inventing stories. So it was the Persians traveling, traders, and they would tell stories and share stories, and that was how things used to go around the world. Then we invented the printing press, things like that. Then we've evolved computers, the internet, blah blah blah. Fantastic ride, really, really good. Absolutely love it, always do it every time I go there. And there is one particular scene, because it's a combination of animatronics and kind of like films on the screen and models and everything like that. Really immersive, really Disney at its absolute best. And there is one particular scene where they talk about is it Alexandria, where all the books were burnt, where basically it was sieged, and the great libraries of Alexandria, I'm sure it's Alexandria, were burnt, and a lot of history was lost. A lot of books and writings were lost, consigned to history. And in this, that you have this model of essentially what is a library destroyed, books are burning, there is smoke going, and they pump through a smell which is burning paper. So it's not like a barbecue, it's burning paper, and it is a really strong smell, and it hits you in the face, and surrounded by everything, it works absolutely fantastic. If you've ridden Spaceship Earth, you'll remember that scene because it's a really strong smoky smell. And it's that. It is absolutely that. It's less barbecue. It really is. And it's got the sweetness of it as well. And you know what? It's even got that slight weird smell of American air conditioning. This, I can close my eyes and sniff that. And just because of the fact that I'm not moving is the only thing that I know that I'm not on Spaceship Earth right at this point in time. I could sniff that for hours for a completely different reason than probably most other people watching this video or drinking it. This brings back so many thoughts and emotions in me that aren't anything to do with whiskey at all. So if you've not ridden Spaceship Earth and if you've not gone to Disney World in Florida, I probably haven't described the smokiness of this nose particularly well. But it's a burning paper and a burning wood. But it's not even a bonfire. It's quite a dry smokiness, but it's a dry fire smoke. And I can imagine you would think of barbecue because there is a slight meatiness to it as well. It's an amazing nose. It's absolutely phenomenal. Whoa. And it is like drinking fire as well. Not in terms of power, just the sheer bloody smokiness of it. Everything that's on the nose, everything of this burning paper, burning wood, dry smoke with this slight meatiness, it's there on the palate. 52%, and to be honest, it doesn't feel it at all. It feels like it's possibly 46. There is a bit of an ale element to it as well, and it's not a bitterness, it's that kind of rich rounded hoppiness of a beer, but it works really well. It doesn't juxtapose, it doesn't bounce off, it actually merges with the smokiness really, really nicely. I'm probably liking this because I really like that smoky beer, which was, I saw people try it, I recommended it to a few people and they didn't want to talk to me again because they wondered what was wrong with me. But because it worked with me, this is working for me now. I can imagine some people are really going to hate this. It's a real kind of earthy, smoky dryness. Coupled with this really rich, sweet beer. I absolutely bloody love this. I love this. I really, really like it. But a lot of people are not going to like this at all. They're really not. It's such a distinct smokiness. I don't think it would even necessarily, I can't even say if you like peated whiskies, if you like Islay whiskies, you'll probably like this. You might not. It's a really weird combination, and the nearest I can possibly get to it is the earthy smokiness of the Kilchoman. That earthiness. But that is the only element of the Kilchoman that's anything like this. That's the only possible comparison I can get of all of the whiskies that I've had so far that I can remember, which ain't many to be honest. But of all the whiskies that I've had throughout this challenge, there's very, very little, if any, that's got anything akin to this. This is totally just out there on its own, which is a good thing anyway. But the flavours and aromas that this contain works with me personally. Love it. Because it reminds me of Disney, reminds me of Epcot, reminds me of Spaceship Earth, which is a fantastic thing. But the flavour combinations are something that I really enjoy. But I can fully appreciate that you might like peated whiskey, but this is going to be too beery for you. It's going to be too sweet for you because it's a really intense sweetness to it. It's going to be too sugary. It's going to be too earthy and not ashy, but it's going to be like a smokiness that isn't going to click with everybody. This is a really distinct, unusual, dare I say, unique whiskey that is not going to work with everybody. And I'd be willing to bet that this is probably going to work with less people than are going to really not get on with it. From what I can recall, the person that donated this was not much of a fan of it. I, on the other hand, think this is absolutely bloody brilliant. I don't know how much it is. Oh no, I do know how much it is. I found it on a website that I've never even seen before called bestofwhisky.com that was selling it for 63 quid. So that's what the bottle looks like. I highly recommend that you try it first. Really do try it first. But if you buy a bottle of it and you don't like it, you can contact me on Twitter or Facebook or on email, and I will happily take the bottle off your hands, because that is right up my avenue. I absolutely love that. But I am warning you, there is a very good chance that you might not. Wow. So, Mystery Benefactor, thank you very, very, very much for that. I absolutely love that. I'm very glad that there's a little bit left, and I'm quite tempted to let my wife have a sniff of it. She doesn't drink whiskey, she doesn't like whiskey, just to see if it reminds her of Spaceship Earth as well. So yeah, Spaceship Earth whiskey, fantastic. Quick rinse out, and then I'm going to crack on with another one because it's getting very late. See you at the next one. Cheers.